Hey, I'm Kelsey Zeiser. Welcome to What's the Story, a short podcast from Light Reading where we take a step back from the most significant topics in telecom to tell you the latest news, how we got here, what it all means, and what to expect next. Today I'm talking with Light Reading's Jeff Baumgartner about cable operators such as Comcast and Charter and how they're trying to differentiate themselves in today's competitive broadband and video markets. And we also discussed some news that came out of Comcast's annual Converge event, which Jeff recently attended. Hey, Jeff, welcome back to What's the Story? Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Kelsey. Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, happy to have you here. How's the weather? Are you covered in snow?
No, it's we did have a little bit out here in Denver, but it kind of, I don't know if you know much about Denver weather, but yeah, it'll snow and then it'll be gone in a couple of days. We don't get buried in it typically.
Oh, that's nice.
So we have a little bit of a warming trend going on, which is nice.
Sweet. That would be my preference as well. So speaking of snow, here's one of my great segues that make no sense.
Okay.
So how are cable operators differentiating themselves in the competitive broadband market? Wanted to hear your thoughts on that today.
Yeah, because that's totally like snow related. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Maybe like a snow. Wow. You can talk about a windfall, but snowfall is generally not like hey, things are going well. We got a snowfall.
Right. Yeah, snowfall is usually not a great thing unless you're skiing or something. Yeah. I think in the past, we tend to kind of focus on one story, but I thought, this time around, it makes sense to talk about some recent stories and how they fit into a broader trend whereby cable is looking for ways to differentiate in today's competitive broadband and video markets, and how some are putting more focus on this idea of service and network convergence. So we'll kind of maybe hit that toward the end, but I thought I'd just maybe start off with broadband and kind of how it's fitting into this idea. After running some trials in recent years, Comcast recently moved ahead with the commercial launch of their low latency broadband capability, which will first be offered on the widely deployed DOCSIS network, and then they'll apply it to the fiber to the premises networks, which are a little more targeted. They've been using them for greenfields, rural build outs, and so forth. But interestingly, they are not trying to sell low latency as a premium add-on like we saw Cox try to do. And they eventually shut that thing down. But instead, Comcast, they're weaving it into the service itself as just kind of a basic part of the service. And they're billing it as a differentiator in broadband, where and it's coming up at a time where the cable operators like Comcast and others are struggling to grow broadband subscribers, while we see gains from fixed wireless and still from the fiber folks. And it also fits in with this trend where we're seeing more emphasis from the cable folks on network reliability, and some areas where they can show strength, like low latency, versus just focusing on speeds and feeds that they're getting with upgrades or updates to 3.1 with DOCSIS or DOCSIS 4.0 upgrades. And I guess the point is, gigabit is pretty widespread now. I'm not talking about the rural areas where they're underserved or not served at all. But when you've got a lot of gigabit capability, and the average consumer, if you have a gig, is probably enough for most everything, versus 2 gig or 3 gig. Do you need those kind of speeds? Probably not. So maybe you look to other areas to differentiate especially if you don't want to get into a price war. So, outside of low latency, Comcast has been emphasizing the AI capabilities that it's introduced with the 4.0 DOCSIS 4.0 rollout, and helping with self-healing of the network. And they've been talking about telemetry capabilities to help them rapidly locate a fiber cut, cutting down the time to repair by hours. So the question, I guess, is, all right, that's great. To focus on that stuff, how does that translate to the consumer, which always seems to be more focused on price, I think, right now. I don't know about you, but I mean, when you're looking at broadband, I mean, what's the big thing? It's probably not latency, but is it price? Is it speed? What's your
Yeah, I
thought?
think it's speed and price, especially with um, our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Speed's pretty important, and then also doing podcasting and being able to write quickly. Speed's important. For my husband, video games are a big pastime for him. So
Well, maybe the low
speed
latency is
is,
for him. Yeah.
yeah, definitely speed and low latency there. Because he plays a lot of different games too. So I imagine depending on the game, it's probably more noticeable. But then, having the right equipment in your house to really take advantage of those speeds, that can be a challenge as well. And how you have everything wired. Is everyone getting the same, the same performance throughout the house? Like, how do you uh,
Yeah. Well, that's a good
figure
point.
that?
'Cause I think one thing that Comcast talked about was like the learnings, or some of the challenges with low latency is the Wi-Fi network in the house. Uh, it could be kind of the Wild West in a way. I mean, obviously they'd prefer that. Hey, we have the best Wi-Fi with our device, but you still have a lot of people who are using routers of their own that they bought at retail, and some might have routers or Wi-Fi access points that are 5 years old. I mean, maybe a serious gamer would probably be on top of that, but for the average consumer, maybe not.
Right. Yeah, he definitely keeps up with all that and having the right equipment to uh, take the most advantage of because we have a gig, we have AT&T fiber, and yeah, so that's like you said. Sometimes I feel like that knowledge gap with consumers. We don't always know what equipment we need to get the most out of it. But luckily, I
Yeah,
have my in-house IT guy who
yeah,
can do all of those things for us.
yeah, yeah. And it's not just like Comcast that's been focused on this. I think a smaller example to point out is there's a partnership between Hytron and a company out in India called Apricom that's trying to break into North America, or the Americas, really, not just North America. And they're working with Hytron, where Hytron's using their technology to power like an AI-based customer service tool that centers on chatbots to help get to resolve issues before having to escalate it to a live person, or heaven forbid, a truck roll that's kind of expensive. So it's kind of an operational thing as well, but it kind of ties into the broader idea that they're trying to add other components to the service that go beyond just the core speed side of it that we've focused on for so long,
Hmm.
as well as pricing. And it's
And you
also,
mentioned
yeah,
you mentioned before them, baking it into the service instead of offering it as a premium. Is that because they maybe wouldn't get enough subscribers on the premium side to make it worth that, and they just want to point it out as a differentiator for competitors? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's probably a little bit of both there. I think we learned from the Cox approach that they did with Elite Gamer, that there wasn't a lot of consumer demand for a service from them that cost an additional X number of dollars per month. And I think that showed that, well, maybe there's not a market that's big enough or one that is willing to spend, one that's big enough that's going to spend that kind of money month to month. And it's like, well, hey, we might as well bring this capability to everybody and use that to sell the service at large. But again, it's coming at a time when cable operators, particularly in the U.S., are trying to figure out ways to gain subscribers and find new ways to compete against fiber and fixed wireless. And fixed wireless is still having its moment, even though the rate of growth is going down. But I mean, they're still growing, and I think it's becoming pretty clear that you don't necessarily need to have gigabit speeds if you're offering enough speed for most people at a price that they like. So, and then this whole idea though is also extended into video, right? And it's another pain point for video. I don't think that they're going to be gaining subscribers. I don't think that's really in the cards anytime soon. But we are seeing them try some things to try to make pay TV more valuable, and maybe cut down on the churn and the rate of subscriber losses. Charter's a good example. They're bundling in a bunch of direct-to-consumer streaming services for no added cost to the pay TV bundle. And they're making progress, and they're going to kind of line this up to really come out in the first half of the year with their full offering, where there's going to be like $80 in value, and you combine what the streaming services that are being bundled in would normally cost. So things like Max and Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and Peacock, a lot of the ad-supported versions of those. And I was thinking about this and all the bundling talk around video. I mean, do you remember the studies? We used to see a lot of studies about, or surveys about subscription fatigue, because we had so many of these direct-to-consumer services coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something, it was like crossing my email. I probably need to go back and check it out. But the headline was something about bundle fatigue. And I have to read more into that. But I think I can understand why it's coming up, because there's, the idea is like, oh, we need to reimagine the bundle. And now we have 95 different versions of bundles now. I think it's another way in which consumers can get a little overwhelmed, trying to deal with that. It's like, hey, what am I getting through T-Mobile versus, what is Charter giving me, and where's the overlap? And
right. I think the overlap's
bundle.
Yeah, the overlap's been a challenge for me because, I wanted to get the Disney Plus bundle with Hulu and ESPN, but I don't really need the ESPN because we already get that on YouTube TV. So it feels like you're paying twice in a way, but it's still cheaper if you get the bundle. And then, like you said, some things are kind of baked in, like we get Max with our AT&T fiber subscription. My brother was asking me how we get Max, and I told him that, and he's like, oh, bummer. Like, I guess he doesn't have that, and so he'd have to pay for another streaming service. So it's tricky. It does seem like the more things that your broadband provider can bundle in terms of streaming services, that would definitely catch my attention. It's also just a pain to keep up with all these different bills from, as you keep adding. And then, sometimes I'll add a channel through Prime, and just to watch, I'll want to watch one show or one movie, and then they get you because you forget to cancel the free trial. Then you end up with a month of just some random.
I always have to put that stuff in my calendar. It's so weird. It's like, don't forget to.
I need to do that too. Just go ahead and put it in my calendar.
They don't really remind you, hey, your free free subscription is going to run out in 2 days. They just kind of hope you just continue on, because they'll say, hey, as of this date, you'll be charged X number of dollars. So anyway, so I guess maybe that's something we'll have to keep an eye on, is bundle fatigue. So yeah,
I got it.
Yeah.
What's the solution? More coffee?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, I guess the last thing I want to talk about in video, in terms of differentiation, Comcast, I was out at their Converge event in Washington, D.C., and one of the things that they focused on was their continued utilization of a platform that they call enhanced 4K, where you get 4K video paired with Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. So that makes the video crisper and the audio richer, along with this low latency. Here's that term again. That ensures that what you as the viewer sees on the TV is only about 10 seconds or less behind what's unfolding on the field. And I guess in streaming, that latency is kind of an issue, because if you're 45 seconds ahead of other people and a touchdown is scored, and you find out on Twitter before you actually see it, or for people who are doing that. But they did this with the summer games in Paris, with some of the coverage that NBC did, and some recent college football games. But the news was that for the first time they're going to do it with the Super Bowl, when the Chiefs and the Eagles play on Super Bowl here on Sunday coming up as we're talking. So anyway, it's just another way they're trying to differentiate and offer something that's maybe a bit better from a quality standpoint than what's in the market today. So we'll see how that translates, as they use it for more live sporting events.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wish they would just call it what it was, instead of adding the marketing enhanced 4K. Like, I guess it's different because of the Dolby Atmos, but yeah, it's just everybody. And it's same with 5G. Each carrier calls it something a little bit different. And I don't know. I wonder if that's confusing to other consumers. It's like, why is yours 5G plus and yours is ultra whatever?
Keep up with all their marketing terms,
Yeah.
What that means.
Confusing. Yeah. All I want to know is, do I have to pay more for this?
Yeah, do I have to pay more? Do I have the stuff in my house? Do I have to get a new device or something? Because that's the other thing with what they're doing. Yeah, you need to have a TV that does these formats in addition to the streaming device or the set top that's being provided. So yeah, you need to have all the different pieces of the puzzle for that to come together. I'm not even sure if I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So I was looking at
I don't know about the other stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like, it looks fine to me. Just to wrap up, wanted to see if there's anything else from the Converge event you wanted to point out. I saw that, they mentioned an updated voice capable remote. I'm just curious, do you have one, and do you use it at all? The voice commands.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. I think they were saying they're processing like 5 million commands a day or something, among Comcast.
Yeah, 50 million.
The 50
in
million.
five different languages. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 million. Oh, you're right. Yeah. So so I have the voice remote at home. I use it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I try not to it's where I kind of feel like self-conscious about it. Like if I'm just in the room and there's people around me, I'm not like Netflix, blah, blah. I like whisper it. And the whispering works too.
It's broadcasting again.
Yeah.
Tonight at 11.
Yeah. So you whisper, and I whisper into the remote sometimes, and it seems to do the trick. So it's actually a pretty useful function.
Telling your remote secrets. Hey, by the way. Yeah, I kind of like it, but I feel the same way you do, a little bit self-conscious. I only really like to use it if nobody else is around. Also, ours is kind of glitchy, and it keeps telling me I don't have it. It was working, and now it's like, you don't have this set up. And I've tried to kind of reboot our remote. So that's good to hear that they're
I think their
working on
implementation,
updating it.
Comcast, they actually did a really good job with it.
Yeah, it is pretty handy though, because a lot of times you're pretty limited in terms of the buttons on remotes, especially with like a Fire Stick. It only has a couple buttons. So I hate going through a search and scrolling to each letter and searching and then, misspelling something. It's just a pain.
Yeah. Typing
I like the idea.
Yeah. And I think, that the voice navigation kind of cuts through all that clutter. Yeah. When it works properly.
For sure. Yeah, right. Exactly. When it works, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Story of my life. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for this update. It's been interesting. And we'll have to keep an eye out on if cable operators can pull ahead in some of these difficult markets.
Yeah, we'll see. 2025 will be an interesting year for them for sure. So great to come on again and chit chat.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Jeff, for taking the time to talk today. And thank you to our wonderful producer, Pierre Landriot, for making this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Light Reading Podcast for more interviews and insights from the team. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.